Hello everyone and welcome to another random bits and pieces segment from my brain, and today, c'est a while for we are playing some more Franchise Hockey Manager 6 as part of the Ottawa Senators. So it is finally here, the video that some of you have been waiting for, where the salary cap actually kicks in and where more than likely GM Jesse Bonhomme is going to need to make some decisions. So, this video took a little bit more prep than usual because I had to check things out. Now, I think I might have some disappointing news in the sense that for this year, I don't believe that I have to make too many tough choices. If we go and look at my finances, so the salary cap is 39 millions. And if we go and check at my finances, right now I'm at 38,204,400. So, right now I'm barely under the cap, but I am under the cap, and that is with extra players on my roster here. I have 4 too many because I have people that came back from injuries. So this year I'm probably going to be able to keep the team pretty much the same. Now, with that being said, next year is probably going to be a different story because right now I'm pretty much at the cap, but if we look at the upcoming free agents, I'm going to have to make some decisions because I have Ryan Miller that's going to want more than 1.1 millions. I have Pavel Datsyuk that's going to want pay raise. I have guys like Mike Fisher and Jason Spezza that also are going to want more money. And I won't be able, unless the cap raises ridiculously high, I'm not going to be able to satisfy everybody. So next year it appears that I'm going to need to make some tough choices. Jason Spezza is definitely going to want more than $1.2 million. So next year is probably going to be a little bit more interesting as far as me having to play with the roster a little bit more. So it might be a little bit disappointing to some because I thought for sure too that I would need to, cut some and everything, but the math checks out. So I'm not going to be getting rid of players just for the sake of getting rid of players. Let's try to win another cup before I have to start gutting my roster. So that's pretty much the news as far as the salary cap goes. So we are compliant, and my extensions have kicked in too. Shara is now making 3.57 millions instead of 2.4 I think he was making before. So my extensions have kicked in. So again, it's going to be a matter of figuring out what I'm going to do, mostly starting next season. Doesn't mean I'm not going to try to be preemptive about it during this season. Maybe I'm going to try to trade a high contract or something like that to make room, especially if I have a high contract that's not performing all that well. But all in all, I'm going to try to keep the team pretty much where it's at. Alright, so with that being said, I am offering a contract to one rookie, which is Brian Elliott. So I've let Tim Thomas walk. I wasn't able to trade him, so I've let Tim Thomas walk. I have Ray Emery that's ready right now to play as the backup. So as a backup, it's going to be fine. We are relying a lot on Ryan Miller anyway. And I'm going to have Brian Elliott in the minors. My idea was to sign a goaltender, but since I'm signing Brian Elliott, I'm not going to do that. Other than that, I might pick up a few players on waivers, but I am not going to go and sign any free agents right now. As you saw, I'm pretty much tied with money anyway, so, and we still pretty much have our core of players. Alright, so with that being said, we are going to take a look at all of those news. There's been quite a few things happening, including a trade we made, and quite a few retirements. Okay, so Oh, that happened again. So, alright, so there was a trade prior to that news here. I guess it's too old, so it's not showing up anymore. It was a trade between Edmonton and Vancouver. Basically, it was Alan McCauley going to Edmonton for Elish Kotelik. Kotelik had a horrible season with Edmonton. He had 6 points in 55 games or something like that. And there were other spare parts that were added. Well, I call it spare parts. I guess it's not really nice, but some players with lesser potential, let's just put it that way. I know Sean Bell, the defenseman, went to Edmonton. I don't remember who the player was that went from Edmonton to Vancouver, but it was an alpha star player, so not a great deal all in all. I think that Edmonton got the better player. Alan McCauley had an okay season last year. I guess we'll see. Right, and then Stéphane Quintal had a local charity ball hockey game, and now he's retired, I guess, and now his name shows as Alex Stalock. So, and there's been another trade between the Capitals and the Hurricanes. I was kind of a bit surprised by that trade. So Carolina traded Sasha Gotch and Stanislav Gron to the Capitals for Clark Wilm and Patrick Lebeau. I was surprised because Sasha Gotch has had quite a few decent seasons in Carolina. So yes, he's only a star and a half player, but he had 45 points in 69 games 2 seasons ago and 38 and 75 this year, so that's pretty decent. But they traded him to Washington, and Clark Wilm is a one-star player, and so is Patrick Lebeau. So not sure what's gonna happen with that, but it does appear that the Capitals got the better player in that trade. He's also younger, so I'm not sure if it was like a salary dump or something, but seems to me that the Capitals at the upper end there. Alright, then there's been a bunch of firings and hirings. Alright, so the LA Kings last year went, their record got wiped. They were under 500, like 31 wins, 36 losses or something like that. I guess I could check. It's not that important. Anyway, they fired their GM, Nick Beverly. And he's going to be replaced by Jay Feaster. So Jay Feaster is now the GM of the Kings. And then they also decided to get rid of Paul Maurice as their coach. So now Kurt Fraser is the coach. And then Buffalo decided to clean the house as well, so they got rid of their GM, Jerry Meehan. He's gone as the GM for Buffalo. He's being replaced by Don Maloney. And then, if I remember correctly, Buffalo had fired their previous coach with 1 game left to go into the regular season, and they hired Mike Sullivan. Well, after 1 coach game, Mike Sullivan got fired, and he's replaced by Paul Maurice. So Paul Maurice is now the coach for Buffalo. Right, and Rick Dudley lost his job as the coach for the Nashville Predators, and he is replaced by Claude Julien, who is the current in real life current coach for the Montreal Canadiens. He also coached the Boston Bruins for a while. And then I was offered a trade that I decided to accept. I figured it would be at least a small salary dump, so I was offered Ryan Callahan for Derek Morris. So Callahan is 20 years old, and he's a right winger, and right now he is a 5-star potential. I don't believe he's going to reach 5 stars, but he still has the ability to become a pretty interesting power forward if he ends up developing properly. So that's definitely a trade that I jumped on. So Ryan Callahan was offered to me for Derek Morris. Derek Morris, as we know, spent some time in the minors for me, and he didn't play all that great or anything like that, so I made the swap. We now have Ryan Callahan. I mean, the Sens in real life do have Ryan Callahan's contract, but he's not going to play anymore. We're going to get him at the very start of his career, and we're going to see if he develops, or if anything, he might become a trade chip for something else later on. I don't know yet. We'll see. And there's been a bunch of retirements. So Jason Allison in Washington decided to retire. He was 30 years old. And he had a decent season, 40 points in 54 games. So I guess he just decided to retire. Vincent D'Anfous retired in Phoenix. He was 37 years old. Eric Desjardins is retiring in Montreal. He was 36. Bretel retired as a Blues at 40 years old. He had 84 points in 82 games the year before. And he's retired. And they're going to retire his number in St. Louis. Vyacheslav Kozlov retired in Detroit. They are retiring his number as well. John Leclerc retires in Montreal, 35 years old. Luc Robitaille retired in LA. He was 39. And they are retiring his number as well. Cliff Running in Vancouver retired, 39 years old. Don Sweeney retired in Boston, 38 years old. Pierre Turgeon retired with the Islanders. He was 35, and they are retiring his number as well. Steve Yzerman, so big name here. Well, there were a few other pretty big names in the list. Steve Yzerman is retiring at age 40. Of course, they are retiring his number as well. Then there's been two other trades. The Flyers sent Tommy Santella to the Sabres for Bobby Ulick. So Sabres are getting younger. Bobby Ulick is not having a great career. 24 points last year. So he is now in Philadelphia. I guess that his body frame fits the ideal of the Flyers, kind of a big guy. And then the Devils and the Bruins made a trade where Ray Giroux ended up in Boston for Mike Van Ryn. Mike Van Ryn is probably the best of the two players. He's also younger. And he had 24 points last year. That's all right. I mean, that's not too bad. So that's pretty much what has happened in my universe before I started to shoot the video. Alright, so I didn't have to make too many crazy trades. That might come soon, but not yet. So we are... And Gilbert Brûlé is available on waivers. I'm not going to pick him up. He's probably not going to reach potential. Gilbert Brûlé sadly was kind of a bust in real life. So... Alright, so now we are going to be simming through the rest of the off-season, all the way up to the preseason. You know the drill by now, so it's going to take a little bit here. Oh, Chris Kelly dumped his agent, so Ottawa Senators Chris Kelly is upset. Because he didn't get a new deal. He doesn't need a deal. He's on a 2-year deal. And he's a cheap contract. I like that. And he's a 3-star player now, Chris Kelly. Of course, he's more of a defensive forward. But, between 20 and 30 points a season for a defensive player is actually pretty good. So, hopefully he wants to stay with the team. Because, again, he's pretty much one of my cheapest player. Ooh, there's been a trade. I like that. Alright. So there's been a trade between the Thrashers and the Avalanche. Oh, so the Thrashers have sent Mike Dunham and Grant Lewis to the Colorado Avalanche for Peter Budaj and Olivier Michaud. Interesting. Alright, so Brian Elliott signed. Oh, that's new. I've never seen that news before. Coach addresses Stewart's gaming habit. While speaking to a local reporter today, Boston coach Brian Sutter acknowledged the team's concern over rumors that defenseman Mark Stewart has been spending an inordinate I think there's a typo there. Amount of time playing online video games. Oh dear God, he started early in 2005 on playing online video games. Yeah, I guess that's just before WoW is coming out. Maybe he's playing EverQuest or something. Yes, we're aware of it, said Sutter. Would prefer it if Mark spent his time on things that would improve his on-ice play, but at least it seems to keep him out of trouble. So 21 years old, Mark Stewart, probably playing EverQuest or something like that. I mean, there were other online games in 2005, obviously. Maybe he's playing like MVP Baseball or something, or maybe some... I think the NHL series had some online capabilities in 2005. Anyway, that's kind of cool. Alright. Brian Elliott, you want number 1? You've got it for now. Alright, so we're going to continue to sim the off-season. Ooh, another trade. Jimmy Alvestad and Mark Chouinard pinched it at a local homeless shelter. They are better people, so... They both play in Tampa Bay right now, and there's been a trade between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Calgary Flames. Ooh, the Flyers have flipped Bobby Elick already. Alright, so Bobby Elick and Kelly Yules are going to Calgary for Curtis Foster and Jeff Toms. Alright. So Curtis Foster is an interesting defenseman that, if I remember correctly, Curtis Foster had a pretty good shot, so that's probably going to help the Philadelphia power play some. Kelly Yules is more of a defensive defenseman, and he's an alpha star now. Bobby Elick is a 2-star player right now, and Jeff Toms is also an alpha star player right now. So it's basically Curtis Foster for Bobby Elick. Interesting trade. I think it kind of evens out. None of them are superstars. They're kind of useful, but not great players. Maybe they both fill a need. Alright, so Chris Kelly signs with new agent, and he's happy now. Alright. I'm happy you're happy, buddy. I wish that as part of the news feed that you get, you would see who signs who as far as free agents. I know there's a place you can look at it. I think it's, if I go here, somewhere, but yeah, I'm not, I know that there's a place that you can look at it, and it shows who signed lately. Maybe it's here, like I would need to, oh well. I am not overly worried about it, because we check every team when it's the first time we face them, so we get to kind of see it then. Ooh, did Toronto just trade Thomas Caberty? I think they did. They sure did. Oh, so Toronto traded Thomas Caberty to the Rangers for Yuri Fisher. I can see how, rating wise, that the trade maybe makes sense, but Thomas Cabarrety is a better player, at least from real life, and he did have a good season last year. He got himself some points. Alright, development report. So that's not the great one. The great one is going to be right before we start training camp. Adam Oates enters Hockey Hall of Fame. I did vote for him. Kirk Muller entered the Hall of Fame. I didn't vote for him. Jeff Brown got in. I didn't vote for him. And Brian Bellows got in, and I don't think I voted for him either. Well, it is what it is. Uh-oh. Instead of adhering to his workout routine, Mark Stewart has been cut continuing to play hours of online video games. Said Stewart is a new way to train. Why go outside or travel the world when I can improve my reflexes in my own living room? Stewart was unable, however, to explain how spending marathon gaming sessions on his couch had contributed to keeping him in game shape, and observers noted he's been carrying a few more pounds recently. Oh, that's the trap of being a gamer, is that, you sit in one place and you get to eat poorly and not exercise. I would know something about it. Well, I typically don't eat while I game, though, but while I'm gaming, I'm not exactly exercising. Alright, so Mark Stewart, bad shape. That's good. Boston is a direct rival. Not a lot of news in August. I wonder where Tim Thomas signed. Sure, he signed somewhere. Oh. Barbecue too hot to handle for Denis Arkhipov. So it's one of our players this time that burned himself using a barbecue. Oh god. So Denis Arkhipov is out of commission for 2 to 3 weeks. Thankfully he's going to be back on time for training camp. I'm not changing anything there. Oh, there's been a trade between the Oilers and the Trashers. Oh. Alright, so the Oilers received Sean O'Donnell from the Trashers, and they sent in return Scott Mellanby. So Scott Mellanby is still a star-and-a-half player despite being 39 years old, but he had only 2 points last year. Maybe he's going to have a bigger role playing for the Trashers. I don't know. Sean O'Donnell is 33, 2-star defenseman. I think Edmonton got the better player. He's also 6 years younger. It is what it is. Alright, so Denis Arkhipov is recuperating pretty good from his burn. Alright. So Ryan Callahan got some balance, aggression, fighting, shooting range, and face-offs. Okay. Alright, so we are starting to get scouting reports again. Oh, I had to extend a bunch of scouts and whatnot during the off-season. I didn't mention it. Oh, something else I did not mention. I scored 47 points for a total of 281. So, sorry, I forgot about that. I wrote it down over there and then I forgot about it because usually I take notes on positions that I need to get extra players for, and since I wasn't signing anybody, my paper is almost blank, so... Oh, there's been a trade between the Bruins and the Canucks. So Boston sent David Petrasek and Dimitri Patsold to the Vancouver Canucks for Mike Brown and Chris Fredheim. So Mike Brown is kind of a enforcer. So then David Petrasek, he's been okay. Been able to move the puck and everything. Not a big deal. Well, I'm not saying it's not a big deal. It's not a mega trade, I guess I should have said. Alright, so in exactly 2 weeks we are going to start our preseason. Alright, so it looks like we're going to play Buffalo twice during preseason. Then Florida, Dallas, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Boston. Alright, Denis Arkhipov is almost completely recovered from his burn. Alright, so Denis Arkhipov is completely recovered, and then there's been a trade between the New Jersey Devils and the Flames. So the Devils traded recently acquired Mike Van Ryn to the Flames for Travis Moen. Yeah, I'm not sure who's the... I think Mike Van Ryn might be a little bit of the better player, but he's also 3 years older. And Travis Moen has some room to continue growing. So I don't know. It's hard to tell who won that trade. Alright, so in 4 days we're going to be playing the Panthers. And we get to look at them, see if they sign people, because they have been terrible for a long time. So hopefully they bolster their lineup a little bit. Alright, so it's time to get everybody up. Come on, Ray-Mary, come and play some games. I don't think the salary cap counts in preseason. I hope it doesn't. So I'm sorry about this. That's the boring part of the off-season video, is when I have to right-click on every player one by one to send them up to play some preseason games. Alright, I think we got everybody. Alright, so we are about to play our first preseason game. Oh, yeah, I also have to give all of those nice people numbers. All right. Alright. I'm gonna make Brian Elliott upset. There you go. Patrick Eves. Here, take number 16. Ken Tuskins can get number 2, that's fine. Dimitri Kalinin can get number 3, that's fine as well. Aaron Rome would like number 27, but it's taken, so you're gonna get number 29. Christoph Schubert would like number 13. Yeah, you're not getting that. Here, get 55. Jacob Klippis would like number 20. Well, you can't have it. Here, I have number 28. Alright. All of that just so we can play some preseason games. So let's take a look at the Florida Panthers. Like I said, they've been terrible for a long time. So hopefully they, for their own sake, really, hopefully they sign some pretty interesting players. No injuries there. Oh boy, that looks pretty barren. So, alright, so Roman Turek and Mike Morrison in net. Jay Boomister, Thomas Malik, Rob Scuderi, Denis Gauthier, Kenny Janssen, Darius Kasparidis. Alright. Marcus Nilsson, Nathan Orton, Marco Tuoco, Sergei Samsonov, Andy Albert, Greg Campbell. Oh, is it Ryan Kessler? Sure is. Alright. So the Panthers have Ryan Kessler. Tim Connolly, Serge Payet, Travis Green, Dennis Schvidke, Anthony Stewart, Mike Johnson, Christian Uzilius, and Rob Glodke. Alright, well, that's the lineup that's probably going to struggle. Alright, go Sens go! So let's see if we can win another Stanley Cup, and maybe this time not face the Detroit Red Wings in the finals. They did lose a couple good players to retirement, so we'll see. Alright, so for this first preseason game, we're going to go with Ryan Miller, and we are going to be facing Roman Turek. And we won 5-4 in overtime. So we outshot Florida 36-32. Jason Spezza was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Tim Connolly was the second star with a goal and an assist as well. And Pavel Datsyuk was the third star with 2 assists. Alright, so the Panthers took a 2-0 lead into the first period, and then Jason Spezza scored from Pavel Datsyuk and Joe Thornton. So it was 2-1 Panthers after 1. And the Panthers took a 3-1 lead into the second period, and then Matt Cullen scored from Pavel Datsyuk and Sheldon Surrey. It was 3-2 Panthers after 2. Then they took a 4-2 lead, but we managed to tie the game with 2 goals in 4 seconds. Martin Havlat scored on the power play from Jason Spezza and Brian McCabe, and then Zdeno Chara from Patrick Elias tied the game. It was tied at 4, and then in overtime. Oh, it was in the shootout, actually. So now the shootout has kicked in. So let's see who we sent. So we sent Jason Spezza. He missed. And then Datsuk missed, Yashin missed, Eliash missed. And then Gregory Campbell managed to score for the Panthers, but Daniel Alfredson also scored, so it went further. Oh dear God, it doesn't go all the way down. Why? That's weird. Is that Marianosa? Marianosa scored? Why did he go so late? Yeah, it's Marianosa that scored in the shootout. Alright, so the shootout doesn't go down, the window doesn't go down enough to be able to see it, right? Wow, so we sent guys like Tim Gleason before we sent... Wait a second. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Let's see. Ha! Yep, that's what's going on. Okay, alright, so here's what's going on. So your team has 5 skaters that are scheduled to go... No, 3. No, 5. So your team has 5 players that are scheduled to go in the shootout. So for me it was Spezza, no problem there. Datsuk, okay. Alexei Yashin, sure. Patrick Eliash, okay. And then Brooks like, okay, I guess. And then after that they send players in alphabetical order. So after your top 5, so Alfredson went first because, you know, his last name starts with A, and then Shara, and then Cullen, and then... So that's why Tim Gleason went first, went before guys like Avlat and Osa, because Avlat and Osa weren't in the top 5 to go. Alright, so probably should... I sure wish they would change that, and that they would send players, you know, more according to ability than, you know, their last name. Alright. Oh dear God. Okay, that doesn't make any sense though. So I have Marianosa that's going to miss the entire season, basically. He's out for 8 months after a ruptured disc in his back. But he scored the game winner in the shootout, and then they say that he collided with an opponent. So, what, he, like, after celebrating, you know, the game-winning goal, he collided with somebody by trying to going back to the dressing room or something? Makes no freaking sense. What the heck? Alright, so we are without Marianosa for the entire season or so. That sucks. You all know how much I like Marianosa by now. And it sucks even more given the circumstances that he scored the game winner with a ruptured disc in his back, apparently. Alright, well. Not a great start. One of our best players gonna miss the entire season. Alright. Teemu Selanne lights the lamp. Still in Phoenix. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Devils. Strong night for Aleshemsky, 22 years old. Just entered the universe not too long ago, I'm sure. He had 3 goals and an assist against Washington. Night to remember for Jonas Nordqvist in that same game playing for Edmonton. He had 4 assists. A night to remember for Saku Koivu playing in Montreal. 30 years old already for Saku. 2 stars and a half. He had 3 goals and an assist against Tampa Bay. David Legwan has a memorable game. He had 4 assists against Columbus. Strong game for Martin Straka in that same game. 33 years old, 3-star player Martin Straka. So doing pretty good over there. He had 4 goals and an assist. Pretty good. Alright, so got it. It's probably going to help that Marianosa is going to miss the entire season. His salary shouldn't count. Alright, so we're going to be playing Dallas now. Let's take a look at the Stars. If I remember correctly, the Stars have terrible goaltending, terrible defense, but pretty good forwards. Let's see if they have started to correct that. Alright, so Tommy Salo and Mike Smith in net. So they are both one-star goaltenders. Brian Allen, not Alien. Brian Allen, Chris Therien, Martin Skula, Dwayne Zinger, Patrick Boileau, Trevor Daley, and Ruslan Soleil on D. Not a great D still. Jussi Jokinen, Danny Eatley, Magnus Arvidsson, Andreas Dackel, Antti Laaksonen, Johnson, Kapanen, Modano, Walker, Brendan Morrow, Anson Carter, Iginla, Axelson, and Steve Ott. So yeah, that's pretty much the same story in Dallas. No great goaltending, no great D, but a decent corps of forwards. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Stars this year. And for this game, we are going to be facing Tommy Salo, and we are sending Brian Elliott. And we won this game 3-1. Oh dear God, there's another news there. Better not be another 8-month injury. Alright, so we outshot Dallas 39-23. Joe Thornton was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Ruslan Soleil was the second star with a goal. And Pavel Datsyuk was the third star with a goal as well. We had 13,064 people in attendance since this preseason game was in Ottawa. And we didn't go with all of our biggest names there. So Pavel Datsyuk opened up the scoring in the first period from Dmitry Kalinin and Brendan Bochenski. Then Ladislav Nagy scored on the power play from Ken Tuskins and Joe Thornton. It was 2-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Dallas scored, made it 2-1. But in the third period, Chris Phillips scored from Chris Kelly and Joe Thornton, made it 3-1, and that was our final score. Ladislav Nagy converts to left wing. Alright, I'm okay with that. It's better than being told that somebody's hurt for 8 months. No one could stop Teemu Selanne. You might want to wait until the season starts to open up the machine, buddy. 3 goals and an assist against Calgary. Oh, Ryan Miller has new pads. So fans of the Ottawa Senators, I guess, will see something different from Ryan Miller in the team's next game. The goaltender will be wearing a new set of pads that he hopes will improve his ability to control rebounds. The pads I'd been wearing tended to kick out rebounds pretty far, and I think this pair should cut down on that and let me do a better job of directing them to our defensemen. Alright. I sure hope so too. I'm counting on you to be pretty good, especially now that we've lost a big piece of our team. Alright, we are about to play against the Buffalo Sabres. Now, the Sabres cleaned house, so they changed their GM and they changed their coach. So now let's see what their team looks like and see if, well, on paper, the team doesn't look too bad. I mean, the worst player on the team is a star and a half. That's pretty good. All right, so Dominik Hasek. Oh, they are the ones who signed Tim Thomas. All right, so it's going to be Dominik Hasek and Tim Thomas in net for the Buffalo Sabres. Philippe Boucher, Nick Boynton, he's suspended, he's not going to play. Joe Corvo, Ronnie Sundin, Chris Allen, Brian Campbell, Michael Rosseville, Doug Janik on D. Alright, there's some pretty decent D there. Ulf Dallin, Patrick Marleau, Scotty Upshall, Thomas Vanek, Steve Carrier, Steve Konowalchuk, Brandon Morrison, Derek Roy, Eric Rasmussen, Maxim Afinogenov, Daniel Payet, Jason Pominville, and Tommy Santala. Alright. They actually are probably going to be a pretty strong team, I would think. That team is not bad at all. All right, we're gonna go to Brian Elliott, and he's gonna face former Ottawa Senator Tim Thomas. Ooh, we lost 5-1. Sabres shellacked us. We did outshoot them 47-29. Thomas Vanek was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and an assist. Tim Thomas was a second star with 46 saves. And Tommy Santella was the third star with 2 goals and an assist. Alright, so no goals in the first period. Then Buffalo scored 3 goals in the second period. And then took a 5-0 lead into the third period. And finally, midway into the third period, Ryan Kahn scored, assisted by Chris Neal. And 5-1 was the final score. So we got beat pretty badly in that one. Great night for Henrik Zetterberg, who had 4 assists against the Wild. Sadly, it doesn't count. Thankfully for us, it doesn't count because that 5-1 loss was ugly. Alright, we are facing Pittsburgh now. So the Penguins are coming to town. So it's going to be at home. Now the Penguins should have Sidney Crosby. So they are going to remain pretty good, although they weren't very good. They weren't very good last season. They didn't make the playoffs. Look at that offense. Alright, so they have Marc-Andre Fleury in net, 20 years old, and he's already pretty good. And then Wade the Bill Wicks as the backup. Adrian Aucoin, Andrew Ference, Greg Zanin, Andrew Hutchinson, Brooks Harpick, Jeff Finger, Tom Pody, and Ryan Whitney on D. The D is okay. Jagger, oh, they signed Adam Denmarsh. No, I traded the Adam Denmarsh to them. So Jagger, Denmarsh, Sean McEachern, Thomas Sorovi, Eric Christensen, Crosby, Malkin, Lemieux, wow, Patrick Sharp, Kasopoulos, Letowski, Ryan Malone, and Andrei Morozov. Yeah, I think Pittsburgh should be back in the playoffs. Unless something crazy happens. Yeah, they actually might beat us. So Wade Double Wicks in net, and Ryan Miller in net for us. Oh, we actually won 7-2. Alright, so we outshot Pittsburgh 48-22. Patrick Elias was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. Chris Kelly was the second star with a goal and 2 assists. And Daniel Alfredson was the third star with 2 goals. We had 12,998 people in attendance for that game. Jason Spezza was the first star, scored first, sorry, on the power play from Chris Kelly and Joe Thornton. Then Sidney Crosby tied the game. It was tied at 1. And then Daniel Alfredson scored from Patrick Elias and Mark Strait. It was 2-1 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, we scored twice. Patrick Elias from Chris Kelly and Sheldon Surrey. And then Zdeno Chara from Pavel Datsyuk and Joe Thornton made it 4-1. Then Chris Kelly scored on the power play in the third period from Jason Spezza and Joe Thornton. Then Daniel Alfredson from Brian McCabe and Patrick Elias made it 6-1. Pittsburgh scored. It was Mario Lemieux who scored a goal, so it was 6-2. And then Patrick Elias, for good measure, scored on the power play from Alexei Yashin. 7-2 the final score. Alright, and we are now going to be playing the St. Louis Blues. So the Blues missed the playoffs, I believe, last season. So they're not doing all that awesome. And now Brettel retired, and he had an 84-point season. So they're going to need to replace that production. So let's see what their lineup looks like and see if they're going to be able to replace that. So Chris Mason and Dan Ellis in net, that's not great. Yanni Ninima, Niklas Wallin, Jason Kurtz, Nathan Dempsey, Roman Polak, Igor Ulanov, Barrett Jackman, and Andy Roach. On D, that's also not all that great. Marty Riesener, Brendan Shanahan, Zinoviev, Kayanik, Bates, Anzus, McClement, Wayne Primo, David Backus, Laperriere, Stempniak, Rycroft, and Joner. I think it's going to be tough in St. Louis. They have a few interesting forwards, but yeah, I think it's going to be tough. We're going to send Ryan Miller for this preseason game. They are sending Dan Ellis. And we won 7-0. We outshot the Blues 43-12. Mark Streit was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 3 assists. Alexei Yashin was the second star with 2 goals and an assist. And Jason Spezza was the third star with a goal and an assist. We scored 4 unanswered goals in the first period. Mark Streit scored on a power play from Michael Ryder and Alexei Yashin. Then Pavel Datsyuk scored short-handed from Zdeno Chara and Sheldon Souray. Then Alexei Yashin scored on the power play from Mark Streit and Jason Spezza. And then Daniel Alfredson from Patrick Elias. So it was 4-0 after 1. Then in the second period, Jason Spezza scored from Karel Rakunik and Joe Thornton, and then Alexei Yashin on the power play from Mark Streit, 6-0 Sens after 2. And then, because 6 goals weren't enough, Matt Cullen scored the 7th goal of the team from Denis Arkhipov, who healed nicely from a barbecue burn, and Mark Streit. Alright, Miroslav Shatan keeps fans on their feet all night with 3 goals and 2 assists against Colorado. 30 years old, 2 stars and a half, still in Edmonton. Strong night for Rob Collins with the Islanders, who had, dear God, 3 goals and 4 assists against Boston. 12-3 shellacking. Wow. There was no stopping Zygmunt Palffy in that game. He had 3 goals and 3 assists. And a night to remember for Alexei Kovalev in a different game for the Rangers. He had a hat-trick against Buffalo. Alright, we are about to play a Boston team that's probably going to be very angry after being beat 12-3. So we are going to be playing the Boston Bruins. Let's see what their team looks like. So they do have Maxim Sushinsky that's hurt, so he may or may not play. Right, so in net it's still Nabokov and Vokun, so they are pretty much set in net with that. That's a pretty good tandem. Ray Giroux, John Michael Lyle, Sandy Sutherland, Mark Stewart, Jonathan Girard, Brian Elmer, Craig Riva, and David Tanabe on D. That's a decent D. Stumpel, Langenbrunner, Frederick Modine, Patrice Bergeron, Olden, Murray, Thompson, Jokinen, Brown, Cherkowski, Murray, Viborny, and Sushinsky. It's not a bad team. It's not a great team either. Yevgeny Nabokov in net for the Bruins. We are going with Ryan Miller. And we won 5-2. We outshot the Bruins 57-28. Michael Ryder was the first star with a goal and an assist. Joe Thornton was the second star with 2 assists. And Alexei Yashin was the third star with 2 assists as well. 12,354 people in attendance for that game. Boston scored the first goal of the game only 19 seconds in, but then we scored 3 unanswered goals. Jason Spezza on the power play from Patrick Elias and Alexei Yashin, then Daniel Alfredson from Pavel Datsyuk and Joe Thornton, and then Sheldon Souray from Alexei Yashin and Michael Ryder. 3-1 after 1. Then Jonathan Girard made it 3-2 after 2, so Boston was within 1, but we scored 2 goals in the third period. Michael Ryder from Joe Thornton and Zdeno Chara, and then finally Matt Cullen from Dmitry Kalinin and Jakob Klepis. And 5-2 was the final score. Sergei Zinoviev in St. Louis had a great game. He had a hat-trick against San Jose. Jason Pominville has a memorable game for the Buffalo Sabres. He had a hat-trick as well against the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And we are ready to play our final preseason game against Buffalo. Of course, they beat us on their own ice 5-1 earlier in the preseason. and we are about to play them again. We're not going to look at their lineup, we just looked at them. So Brian Elliott is going to go back in net for us against the Sabres. Tim Thomas is going to try to beat us again. This time we won 8-2. We outshot Buffalo 36-26. Brian McCabe was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Alexei Yashin was the second star with 2 goals and an assist. And Mike Fisher was the third star with a goal and an assist as well. So we scored twice in the first period. Alexei Yashin scored from Mark Streit and Pavel Datsyuk. And then Joe Thornton from Jason Spezza and Mike Fisher. It was 2-0 Sens after 1. Then Tim Gleason scored from Zdeno Chara, and Jason Spezza scored his 5th of the preseason on the power play from Alexei Yashin. It was 4-0 Sens at that point. Buffalo scored on the power play, made it 4-1 after 2. Then in the third period, Alexei Yashin scored unassisted on the power play, made it 5-1. And then Brian McCabe short-handed from Matt Cullen. So it was 6-1. Then Buffalo scored, made it 6-2, and we scored 2 more goals. Mike Fisher from Brian McCabe and Brooks Laich, and then Joe Thornton from Mark Streit. So 8-2 was the final score. Alright, Ilya Kovalchuk has a good game for Atlanta. He had 4 goals against Anaheim. Anaheim was also terrible last season, so I don't know if they made some changes. Mark Savard has a memorable game playing for Columbus. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against Boston. Alright, and that's going to conclude our first video of the salary cap era. Prior to the next video, I'm going to decide who stays on the team. I'm going to make sure that we are salary cap compliant as well, which we probably will be. We have a big chunk of salary sitting on injured reserve for quite a while, so we should be good there. Looks like we're going to be playing Toronto 3 times in the first month of the season, and Montreal twice, so we're going to see some faces a lot. Toronto did pretty good last year. I'm kind of curious to see what their team looks like, but we're going to look at that in the next video. For the time being, I do want to thank you for tuning in, and if you've liked the video, as usual, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that good stuff. And until I roll this game again, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.